The first half of the show comes to you from Neil Feary's farm in Shannon Harbour. We were delighted to be invited to the West Offaly Dairy Discussion Group, made up of 15 farmers from the jurisdiction, to record a special presentation made by none other than my predecessor on health and fitness, Dr. Diane Cooper. Diane was joined by the nutrition expert on our team, Ruth Kavanagh. The special presentation is on an issue that's very close to Diane's heart, and that's health and fitness on the farm. We'll hear some highlights of their talk very shortly, but first I pulled Diane and Ruth out of the calf shed on Ronan's farm. You'll hear Diane first here, telling me about why she cares about the issue so much.
You can see from the start of the presentation through to the end, there's big changes. There's changes in people's body gestures, body language, and in knowledge and understanding. So what I love, it's such a privilege to be able to come into a group and take them through a process from A to B of, these are some of the issues that you're facing, but these are the evidence-based ways of fixing them in a very simple and practical way. And it's a real privilege to do that. And then you can hear from the questions and the comments that it makes sense. And they're thinking, they said, oh yeah, there are things that we can absolutely adopt and do in our days, and the fact that they know that it makes a massive difference to their health is a really good thing. So it's just a privilege to be able to come into the group and like to be fair, to have them welcome us, really and truly, they didn't know us and they were just so open and lovely. Sure, that's it. It's just a privilege. Yeah,
it was a lovely atmosphere. Ruth, you opened up the presentations specifically looking at nutrition, and obviously it's an area of expertise for you, and then just some of the practical representations of what you were talking about are kind of arresting and mind-blowing, the amount of sugar in our everyday products and this type of thing. Do you find that these messages still surprise people today, even though all this information online and elsewhere is out there?
Yes, absolutely. I think salt in particular, when you look at heart disease, people don't realise that it's directly linked to blood pressure. Blood pressure then is directly linked with heart disease. So it's these simple changes that people may tend to underestimate the impact that they can have on your health. It really is the small changes. When you do them daily, make it into a lifestyle habit, that's when they'll see the changes. But yes, people are still surprised to this day when the message is clear, but it's just making it work for that person.
And, Diane was very good in talking about some of the physical stuff that you can do, but nutrition is such an important component of how our bodies develop through our lives. So it was fascinating to see that, again, so much of what you guys were talking about today are simple, attainable changes that can ultimately deliver life-changing changes.
Absolutely. And I think along with that point is sometimes people think that if they have, they do all the right things that they're supposed to in one day and they wake up the next morning and they don't see a big change, they kind of say, oh, but sure, that didn't work. But that's not the point. It's these small changes over time. When you compare yourself after time, if you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you feel a certain way today, in 6 months' time you won't remember how you felt unless you reflect on it, which generally people tend not to do unless they're asked. So I'd say stick with the small changes, keep doing it, build it into your lifestyle, and you will feel much better in 6 months' time, 12 months' time. As the time goes on, you will.
But when you look at people who would be deemed to have had success in gaining strength or losing weight or whatever it is, if you were to look at what they're doing, they're actually doing these small things daily or almost daily. So it's consistency, it's small things, and it's called lifestyle medicine for a reason. It's how you live your life. It's not something that you do for 4 weeks or 6 weeks. The conversations inside where, I've tried this thing for a few weeks and it worked great and then it didn't. And no matter what the thing is that anyone tries, you will always going to get that result because it's not something that's sustainable in your life. So in terms of the work that we do, we very much are focused on lifestyle change, small, simple, practical, but evidence-based, obviously things we know that are effective. And that's how people have success. And there's no silver bullet, there is no magic pill, there's no point coming to Ruth or myself if you're looking for a magic pill, because one does not exist. But if you do slow and steady, wins the race when it comes to health and lifestyle.
You mentioned there the work that you guys do, and if people were to come to you, there's no silver bullet. If people listening to Health and Fitness this evening do want to look for a lifestyle change and a solution, that's something that you can provide for groups, be it remotely, that type of thing. Is there a way of engaging with those services that you guys do?
Absolutely, and I will say actually we're in a very fortunate position that the vast majority of the work that we do is funded by fabulous funders in, like, it would be the HSE or Healthy Ireland or Leash Sports Partnership or lots of different funders. So a lot of the work that we do is actually free, which is great because that could have been a barrier to participation, which we totally understand. So if you look us up, so www.edufit.ie, and sign up to our newsletter. Every month you can see all of the talks, workshops, programmes that we have going on around the country, and you'd be very welcome to join us.
Let's hear some of the best bits from their presentation. First up, Ruth's work on some of the key health markers that can lead to a big national issue in this country, and that's heart disease.
High blood pressure was another key concern from our data. Very interestingly, when we asked farmers at the start to complete their health history questionnaire, only 10% of farmers said that they had high blood pressure. But we done blood pressure, we done finger prick checks to look at cholesterol and blood sugars. And we found that 70% of farmers actually had high blood pressure, and then 60% actually had it afterwards. So farmers actually reduced their blood pressure after the 6-week intervention. But that was a big shock because only 10% of them thought that they actually had high blood pressure. And why that's so concerning is high blood pressure is a major risk factor for heart disease. And unfortunately, we don't get many symptoms. So we could have high blood pressure and we may not know about it. So it's really, really important that we go and get health checks. It's literally less than 10 minutes, put a blood pressure cuff on your arm, and it really, really is a lifesaver.
Next, Diane is talking to the group on the importance of muscle strength to a farmer's work.
What's happening here, right? This muscle has basically, it just shrinks, it wastes away. That's called sarcopenia. So it's not the leg hasn't gotten bigger. It's not a large leg. It's a small leg, but of what's there, it's not much muscle. So I'm going to have problems with strength. Every time I walk, it requires a lot of strength and balance to actually walk because I'm usually on one limb at a time. So if I'm walking across uneven ground, if I'm trying to get up and down off a height, if I'm trying to do a lot of things, there's major balance issues here, there's major frailty. The risk of injury for this person and all of the years leading up to that is high. Okay, so that you need to be mindful, because I'm showing you a leg, but it obviously happens everywhere. This bone is not good. If the muscle is weak, the bone is weak. That's osteoporosis. Okay, so it's what happens here is this will be very likely to fracture with a fall. It will very likely to break. And as we get older, we have a high prevalence of that in our hips, in our spine, so the whole length of the spine and wrists. We have a lot of soft bone in those areas. And I want to point out something else about this, because I'm talking about physical things now, I'm talking about strength and functionality. But if you know anyone who's older, who's frail, and who has had a fall, generally what happens is, after the fall, it can often kickstart or accelerate something like dementia and Alzheimer's. And if you have falls, and you end up in more bed rest and more severe physical inactivity, you have a lot of muscle wastage. You lose strength rapidly with that, and you get the same issues with cognitive health. So this is a major issue. The point I'm trying to make is, for me, for everyone I know and love, for everyone I work with, I'm not trying to turn them into triathletes. I'm trying to get them to move in any shape or form to get them away from here, because you don't need to end up here. But you will end up here if you do nothing. And that's just the reality of the situation.
Working on these things takes time, and farmers will know that time doesn't come easily. Here's Diane again.
And you colour code the activities. So, farm work is colour coded, home stuff is colour coded. And if you look at your whole week and every minute of every day is colour coded, it means that there's literally not 1 minute. There isn't a minute for you to actually do something for yourself or look after yourself or have a bit of fun, and that causes problems. And it's very easy to happen to people who are self-employed. It's something I constantly have to have a check on, because I could work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I have to try and not do that. Get a little bit of white space in there. I don't care if it's 5 minutes, if it's just to close the door, have a cup of tea and just Breathe. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a world groundbreaking thing, but get a bit of white space into that diary. Try and get rid of things that are not serving you. In some people's worlds, probably not yours, there's an awful lot of social media, there's an awful lot of scrolling, there's an awful lot of time on phones, and that's causing indirectly a lot of mental health difficulties. But the stuff that isn't serving you, like you've such little precious time available in the week for yourself. Try and connect that time to something that will actually enhance and improve your life. Whether it's having a coffee with someone you haven't seen in forever, making a phone call to someone who's really lonely, and actually, by you actually trying to help someone else, you'll actually end up really helping yourself. But connect that little bit of white space that you have with something that's going to really positively impact your life. And if you try and work something fun into your schedule, because it just gets forgotten about. So anything that makes you laugh, brings you joy, I don't care what it is. If you can't do it, if you don't even know what that is, that's fine. Just sit down and think about it. Try and get some of these things into your life, because what it'll do is it'll help with that stress recovery response. You have to focus on recovery with the lifestyles that you need.
Finally, Diane speaks to the dangers of those selling magic potions and get fit quick magic beans.
Be careful of this, because in my field of health and fitness, there's influencers and all sorts of people all over the place, and they're telling you that their lives are perfect, and if you just do this, everything will be amazing, and if you just take this supplement, or if you I'm 20 years working in this profession, and I've spent 15 of those working intensively one-to-one with people. Nobody lives this life. And people will say to me, right, I'm going to change my nutrition, I'm going to change my training, I'm going to do all these things. You need another 40 hours in your week to do that. It's just not possible. So if you can do something today that will help you with recovery, great. You might be able to do it tomorrow, but it's wherever you can, try and focus on that recovery. My final thought, physical health, mental health and well-being are not things that happen naturally. You have to work on it. If you want it, you have to invest in it. It's like if you don't invest in your pension, there won't be one there when you retire. It's the same with your health. If you do nothing, it just gets taken away every year with the ageing process. You have a huge amount of control over this. Muscle matters. Get it strong. There's a lot you can do from the lifestyle perspective. Focus on recovery from stress. Recovery is your absolute best friend. Can't get rid of the stress, focus on recovery. Put white space in your diary for your own health and well-being. Time and health are not guaranteed. Assess yours and use it wisely.
OK, let's get the perspective of the audience, starting with Hughie Egan, who's a dairy farmer from Doon in Offaly. He says he took a huge amount away from Diane and Ruth's presentation.
I thought it was very good, very informative. Great for us to hear it, because health and fitness and lifestyle, I suppose, for us people that are so busy the whole time, we just kind of throw it one side because we just haven't time to do it. But it was explained in there very well, and it's very basic stuff, I suppose, that you hear a lot of the time. But it's when you hear them putting it so simple that you just have to go and make time for fitness and health and lifestyle and mental. Your mental health, probably more so than anything. I thought it was a very, very good presentation. Thought the two girls done very well, made it very simple, and it's not rocket science, but there's no silver bullets at the end of the day. It's all about work and organisation.
Yes, and Dan, I suppose farmers won't be, that's they understand work and organisation, so maybe it's something as a group that you do have the ability to tackle. I
suppose, and the other thing I thought in there as well was, maybe it's easier to do stuff like that in a group, because we do all our other stuff here in the discussion group, together, we're grass measurement, we're up in line with one another, we're in WhatsApp groups. We do our grass measurement, we do our fertility figures, we do our fats and our protein figures and all this stuff, and we share all this in our financials at the end of the year. And maybe doing something like on health and fitness and mental health and all this thing, maybe this could be all something we could do as a group as well.
One of the things that struck me actually as well was that it's obviously a profession that can produce repetitive strain injuries and that type of thing, but it's also a profession that the guys are pointing out has some really positive health benefits. You're out in the fresh air, you're surrounded by greenery, and your step counts are all pretty high as well as that. So there's good sides to the job as well as difficulties.
Sure, I suppose, isn't that it? We kind of have our own personal gyms at home in our fields, probably better than anything, but it's probably the other things. It's I don't know, I'm an old stage, or probably a long time at one of the older members of their group, this is all new stuff. The younger lads look after themselves probably a bit better. A lot of them probably going to gyms and that during the winter, but Coming from a fella that got 2 knee replacements this time last year, I'm very delighted for a lot of stuff I've seen there today. Still have a basic stretching, getting your steps in. But like, what goes with it is a very healthy lifestyle. It's very work intensive, but like it is what you make it yourself. And it's glad to be able to get up in the morning, pick on a pair of wellies, and 20 yards down the road you're at work. You don't have to be sitting in traffic jams or worrying or looking at checking your emails on the way in or anything like this. So I don't know. I love what I do. It's a pity we probably are a bit hard on ourselves. We probably do work too long and all that, but it's important to get a work-life balance.
Ronan Feary, dairy farmer, Shannon Harbour.
Ronan, we're here at your farm, and we've just seen Dr. Diane Cooper and Ruth Kavanagh delivered their talk on health and fitness, and specifically health and fitness on the farm. And you'd invited about 15, 16 of your kind of farming colleagues from around the county here. I know it's a regular meeting that you guys have, but you decided when you were hosting it to make it about health and fitness. How did you find today's presentation?
I thought it was very good, David. It's not something we'd normally do. We're usually dealing with figures and cows and EBIs and proteins and butterfat, and just for this discussion group I decided we might just look at ourselves instead of cows and land and fertiliser and meal. So the group is ageing slightly, so and we've all had niggles and aches and pains, and I just thought for this group we might just take in a couple of specialists and let them have a few words with us. And I thought the presentation was very good. I thought it was very in depth. I thought the guys were very engaged in it, and I think they got an awful lot out of it.
What, if anything, was there in there that you might take away from it yourself?
I think to take the time to look after yourself physically with the stretching and with the activities that you can do, the simple things in life, and just to work on your own physical, I suppose, your physical, because this job is so physical, and we're the main machine on the dairy farm. This is we have to look after ourselves first before anything else, It's
a really good point, actually. To be the main machine on the dairy farm is probably a point lost on a lot of people from the outside of the profession. Then just more broadly speaking, on health and fitness, we like to talk about people's place in society and participation and the kind of supports we can give each other. This group meeting, you have a Chagas facilitator, but you guys make sure that you all get together and talk about the challenges and opportunities in the job all along the way. And with the changing face of farming, that must be an invaluable resource. Yeah,
absolutely. We're just one of hundreds of discussion groups that Chagas run around the country. We're the West Offaly discussion group. I think there's 5 more in Offaly. Like I think I was saying to you earlier there, that farming is a very isolated game, and you're farming many times on your own, most of the time on your own. And in this scenario, once a month we meet on each other's farms. We go over figures, we go over our performances, but it's really a social thing as well, because if guys are having a hard time with the weather or with the milk yields or whatever, it's good to be able to talk it out with other lads and to realise that you're not the only one in that situation. So I think this is a very important part of, I suppose, what we do here as farmers in the West Midlands. So, I highly recommend it anyway, that's for sure.
Kevin Heaven is my name here. I'm a dairy farmer from Belmont, County Offaly, milking 180 cows here in Belmont.
No small task, I imagine, and as we have been discussing today, that takes a fair amount of toll on the body over the course of many years, I can only imagine. Diane Cooper and Ruth Kavanagh were given a presentation about health and fitness on the farm today. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought very good. The biggest problem, we all say we don't have enough time. The food we're eating, maybe it's just we're eating too quick and we're not taking time to eat the proper food because we're always rushing. And it's the same with our exercise. We always say we're too busy, and maybe, as like what the girl says, in 20 years' time, we might be doing in waiting rooms and A&Es where we could have done a bit of exercise now. Could have saved an awful lot of problems down the road, but very good.
There was plenty to take from it. One of the things that you were speaking to Diane about specifically actually was the fact that you and a few guys had done gym work during the winter and this, and by the sounds of it, put in a lot of work when you were there. and it just wrecked you afterwards. So there's an argument to be made for sometimes not doing too much.
Yes. What we doing was a few of us we do the gym there before the cows start calving. So we'll probably start off this month and stay going till February, and then we go in and we probably do a bit too much, and then we're wrecked in for the next few days afterwards. So we don't take our time going up, and that's what the girls are saying, to do it slowly is better than all on the one day. But no, we try and keep as fit as we can. And the biggest problem then is, you see, we get busy then with cows calving, and then we kind of stop, and then cows are calving, and next thing you're into a breeding season, next thing you're into silage season, and next thing we don't get back into it again, and we take too long of a break. So, and then it's harder and harder to get back in doing it, you know.
And that's one of the things that was talked about, is finding that time, and ultimately you kind of have to make yourself find it some way, shape or form, but not easily done. A final point then is when you guys meet up then, I know you do it relatively regularly. Once a month. Yeah. What way would you feel afterwards compared to the way you feel heading into it typically?
Yeah, I've often seen it that, especially when you're having a bad day on the farm and you have a lot of problems, like calf scour and maybe not enough grass, and we're all complaining about the weather and all that, but it's when we go to these meetings and sit down as a group, and then you realise that you're not the only one in the problems, and it's great to iron out your problems. Like derogation now is the big one at the moment. And there's ways of getting around it. Cut back on beef stock, cut back on maybe, they're alright trying to get a bit extra into the ground, maybe it might be the way to go. But there's ways out of it, and it's great to have the advice of other farmers, and what way they're going to solve their problems. And usually 9 times out of 10, you're coming home way better than when you go to the meeting. And it's something that I'd recommend for every farmer to be involved in.
A shared problem is a problem halved.
That's it, yeah. And as I said to you, you think you're the only one in this situation. You're not. Do you know what I mean? And there's always solutions to the problems. And the biggest thing is they're able to talk about it. And then it's not that you're getting advice from an advisor or a professional man. You're getting advice from a fellow farmer, which is, I always take more on board than, I say, a professional man.
My name is Jim Wiles. I'm a dairy advisor with Shaggis, based in Tullamore, County Offaly.
I understand that you're involved in getting these meetings up and running once a month. So this maybe was something slightly a bit different. What did you make of it from, say, the facilitator's perspective?
Yeah, very different meeting today, David. Generally, we talk about farm technical efficiencies. We look at grassland management, breeding, feeding, facilities on farms, labour, all that type of thing. So today was a fresh air, to be honest with you, something very, very different, but yet very, very important. Really, the two presenters really outlined, the health of farmers, especially wouldn't be brilliant, and there was a lot of very good take-home messages for farmers and very practical. The two girls, I have to compliment them, were excellent, but they give people lots to think about. And even, I think, one thing that stood out for me, just a small change that people might make in their lifestyle, making a little change, can have a big effect in terms of improving their life and health.